What if the smiling hitchhiker on the side of the road wasn't a victim, but a predator? What if behind her tired eyes and rough smile hid one of the most notorious killers in American history? This is the story of Aileen Wuornos. To the world, she became America's first female serial killer. To some, she was a monster. To others, she was a woman pushed beyond breaking point. Her life was a storm, a story of violence, survival, and choices that blurred the line between victim and predator. Aileen Carol Wuornos was born on February 29, 1956, in Rochester, Michigan. From the very beginning, her life was marked by tragedy. Her father, a violent criminal, was in prison when she was born and later took his own life. Her mother abandoned her when she was still a baby. By the age of 4, Aileen and her brother Keith were sent to live with their grandparents. But instead of safety, Aileen found abuse. Her grandfather was an alcoholic who ruled the home with fists and rage. Aileen was beaten, belittled, and often left to fend for herself. By the time she was 11, she was already drinking, smoking, and experimenting with drugs. By 14, she was pregnant after being sexually assaulted by a family friend. The baby was taken away for adoption. Aileen never truly recovered from that loss. Home was no longer a place she could survive in, and so she left. At just 15 years old, Aileen was homeless. She lived in the woods, slept in abandoned cars, and survived by trading sex for food, money, or cigarettes. Every night was a battle. Every stranger could be a threat. And somewhere, in those cold, desperate years, Aileen learned something. The world doesn't save women like her. If she wanted to survive, she would have to fight. That lesson stayed with her forever. By her early 20s, Aileen was drifting across America. She became known to police in several states for theft, fraud, and sex work. She carried weapons, fought violently when threatened, and trusted no one. But in 1986, in a Florida gay bar, something unexpected happened. Aileen met a woman named Tyria Moore. For the first time in her life, she felt she had found someone who cared about her, someone who could love her. Aileen clung to Tyria with everything she had. But love didn't pay the bills. To support them, Aileen turned back to sex work, often hitchhiking along Florida highways, offering rides and company to lonely men. None of them knew that they had just invited danger into their cars. It was late 1989 when Aileen's life and America's headlines changed forever. On December 1st, a 51-year-old man named Richard Mallory picked up Aileen on the side of the road. Mallory owned an electronics repair shop, but he also had a dark history of violence. What happened between them that night has been debated ever since. Aileen later claimed Mallory raped and brutally attacked her. She said she shot him in self-defense. But when police found his abandoned car and later discovered his body hidden in the woods, shot 4 times with a .22 caliber pistol, questions began to rise. Was this really self-defense, or was it something more? Whatever the truth, the killing set something in motion. Aileen had crossed a line, and once crossed, it was hard to turn back. Over the next year, more men would pick up Aileen Wuornos, and more would never make it home. David Spears, Charles Cascadden, Troy Burris, Charles Humphreys, Peter Seams, Walter Antonio. One after another, these men disappeared along Florida highways. Each one was later found shot multiple times, their cars abandoned, their lives cut short. The police had a pattern. The media had a headline. And the country had a new monster to fear, a female serial killer. But Aileen didn't see herself as a predator. In her mind, she was a survivor. She claimed every man she killed tried to hurt her first. The truth, we may never fully know. Some of her victims had histories of violence. Others were ordinary men with families. But for Aileen, the line between attack and survival was forever blurred. By late 1990, investigators had connected the murders. The weapon was the same, the locations were linked. The cars tied back to a mysterious hitchhiker and her companion. Witnesses described a rough-looking blonde woman, often seen with another woman. Police now had a direction. They weren't looking for a man, but a woman. That woman was Aileen Wuornos, and the companion, Tyria Moore. For months, the two women had been living in cheap motels, dodging questions and pawning stolen belongings from Aileen's victims. But the walls were closing in. On January 9, 1991, police arrested Aileen at the Last Resort, a biker bar in Daytona Beach, the next day. They tracked down Tyria, and here the story took a cruel turn. Detectives convinced Tyria to help them. She agreed to call Aileen from the police station, secretly recording their conversations. On the phone, Tyria begged her to confess, to protect her from being implicated. And after hours of pressure, Aileen finally broke. She admitted to the murders. But she insisted, again and again, that it was self-defense. She said every man she killed tried to rape or attack her. The law didn't see it that way. In 1992, Aileen Wuornos went on trial for the murder of Richard Mallory. The courtroom was packed. Reporters called her the damsel of death, the highway hunter, the female Ted Bundy, but Aileen didn't play the part of the weeping, misunderstood woman. She was angry, defiant, explosive. She shouted at the jury, snapped at reporters, and told the court, "I killed them, sure. But they were going to hurt me." The jury didn't believe her. She was found guilty. And in the months that followed, she was convicted of 6 murders in total. Her sentence, death. Locked away on Florida's death row, Aileen became a media obsession. Documentaries were filmed. Reporters lined up to interview her. Everyone wanted to understand the woman who became America's first female serial killer. But as the years passed, Aileen's mind seemed to unravel. She spoke of government conspiracies, of sonic pressure in prison, of forces controlling her fate. By the time her execution date was set, she was a woman broken by life, by trauma, and by her own choices. On October 9, 2002, Aileen Wuornos was executed by lethal injection at the Florida State Prison. She was 46 years old. Her final words were strange, almost childlike. "Yes, I would just like to say I'm sailing with the rock, and I'll be back, like Independence Day, with Jesus." Big, mothership and all. It was a farewell that left the room silent. So, who was Aileen Wuornos? To prosecutors, she was a cold-blooded killer who preyed on men for money. To her defenders, she was a broken woman who lashed out in a world that had only ever abused her. The truth may lie somewhere in between. Aileen Wuornos became a symbol of female rage, of trauma turned violent, of a society that failed her long before she picked up a gun. Her story reminds us that evil doesn't always come from monsters in the dark. Sometimes it's born from pain, neglect, and years of being unseen. And in the end, Aileen Wuornos wasn't just America's first female serial killer. She was also America's most tragic